Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Today there will be just me and Sara. Sara and Sara. I just figured
So
that
squared.
out. That's weird. Okay, when we speak to each other. Anyway, can you hear us? See us? Can we do a little check there? Yes? No? We can hear
Great.
and see you just fine. Okay, super. So we will start directly. Um, Today I will explain you quickly. Hi, Sarah. I
Hi, Lydia.
love that. Okay, today I will explain you quickly how that will work today. So we will have some introductory slides like usual, and then there will be Sarah speaking. She will do her talk. I will share the slides today. And then at the end, you can ask the question. So you can ask them directly in the chat if you want. I will pick up the question in the chat. Or you have in the lower part of the video, you have ask a question. So you could use both of these options, okay? Ah. Okay. Now I'm too excited about this story, Sarah. Sarah, I should stop about that, but it's exciting. So let me start. I will share the screen. Okay, I will share the entire screen. Up, share. So here we go. Up. I should start from the beginning, obviously. So slideshow. Here we go. So thank you so much for joining SEO Nerd Switzerland. First of all, I think most of you then joined know SEO Nerd Switzerland. Is exciting because this is the first event of 2023. Yeah! Thank you, Sarah, for joining. And what I want to say is explain you a bit about SEO Nord Switzerland. So we are an association which is co-founded by Isaline and I. Today Isaline will not be here because we decided to share the events now, so each of us will do one event. And this association, we built it because we wanted to speak SEO, to be honest. We did it for ourselves. We wanted to speak SEO, we wanted to hear other people speaking SEO, and then what happened is like it became important for us, then everybody could have the knowledge about SEO, then everybody could have access to SEO. This is why we have these fantastic speakers as Sara today. Now, this is super cool. We have 3 sponsors, and I am so excited to say that we have a new sponsor. Equal! Yeah! So let me introduce you the sponsor. So we have Lip, which is our traditional sponsor, which is a web and mobile development company, and they have a wide range of services such as development, obviously, and UX, SEO, etc., etc. Then we have Equal, which is our new sponsor, and we are very, 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 very grateful for this new sponsor. And it is a full service agency, so super cool because that means then they do everything. Then is related to online marketing, SEO, and web development too. So thank you so much for these 2 sponsors. And now we go to our last sponsor. Last one is Working SEO. I am sure that most of you know Working SEO because it's a podcast where people share their career story about SEO. And I find it's Isaline that organized this podcast, and I find it fantastic because it's really human. You can really hear the people's story. But Working SEO is not just that, obviously, it's not just a podcast, it's also a job board. So if you're looking for a job, you can go and check Working SEO. What next? Okay, this is nothing to do with SEO nerd, but let me just spend a few minutes on this. Ulrika and I don't know if you know Ulrika, but I guess most of you know her. She is the lady from the north that speaks at all the conference. Anyway, Ulrika and I decided to organize special events about international SEO, and the first event will happen on February 9th at 5:30. We will have Aleida and Joe to join us for this event. You can check the website, I will send it later on, and you can subscribe if you want, and there will be the description of the talks. Anyway, let's go back to SEO Nerd Switzerland, which is very important. What is our next event at SEO Nerd Switzerland? We have Veruska. I love Veruska, and it will be Isalin, then will take care of this event. What is fantastic, she will speak, she often speak about content, so the importance of content in international multilingual SEO. So she will speak about that. And what next? But next is our fantastic Sara. So I'm happy to introduce you, Sara. If it is possible, I will take just a few minutes to introduce her, and then she will go and do her talk. So Sara is an SEO consultant, obviously, as probably everybody knows it. She's based in Canada. So I've seen outside of her window, there is like something like 3 meters of snow at the moment. She has been doing SEO since 2014. Sara, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what
Correct.
I
Yep,
saw.
that's
Okay,
correct.
top. Okay, but she's more than that. She is a lot more than that. She also give valuable tips on LinkedIn. So if you want to learn something, follow her on LinkedIn, because I think, I don't know if you do it once per week or almost every day, but regularly I see very useful tips from your site, some advice. She has a newsletter, so she has directly a website. Maybe Sara, or I will share it at the end, or if you want to share it now, or I can share it at the end, your website, and people can directly subscribe to your newsletter. Which is also very valuable, so absolutely worth it. Subscribe. And something that I also know, she is a mentor. So I know that you are also the Woman in Tech community as a mentor, and so I think then I say most of the thing about you. Maybe there are some few things that we can say. Apart the fact that you're fantastic and funny. She's funny, let's say. She's funny also. Do you want to add something else about you?
No, thank you. That was great, and I'm super happy to be here today.
Super. So now it will be me sharing the slides, as I say, and then let's hope that I catch it when it's the right moment. So okay, to change the slide, let me go back. Where is the slide? Just a second. Then I
Hey
will catch
Lydia,
them.
hey Idris,
Ah,
hey
yeah, I have
everyone.
them. Yeah, there are a lot of hello. Let me check that. Okay, so let me share it now. Enter screen. Here we go. Okay, ready, Sarah?
Yep.
Ready, settle, go! Okay, let me do this big if I can. To
If you can click
present,
next to the
present.
plus sign.
Okay, too late. Okay, I go back.
Yes,
You,
yes.
okay. So I will click the plus sign here. Ah, okay, you want just that. Okay. Like this?
Yep,
It's
we
okay?
can make it.
Okay,
Yep, you can just make it as big. Yep,
okay.
I think that would work.
Okay, is that okay?
Or someone suggested. Can you see it well, guys?
Yes, no?
Okay,
Okay,
sure.
they say yes. Okay, let's go like this, Sarah.
Let's start.
Okay.
Okay, so hi everyone. Today I want to talk to you about Entity SEO. Can we go to the next slide?
Yeah, we can,
I
but
would,
sadly, wait, I have to go like this if I do it in this way,
yeah,
apparently.
yeah, sure.
Okay, okay.
So the purpose of this is when I was thinking of this topic and how to talk about it, I wanted to remove all the jargon, all the things that will not make a difference when it comes to execution. I wanted to like focus it to what I need to know to execute on that and to communicate. And that's what I'm trying to communicate with you. So by the end of this webinar, you understand what entity SEO is and why it's important, how to incorporate it into your SEO workflows, because sometimes we do share tips and then maybe I wouldn't want to leave you puzzled. Okay, how does this fit with with what I do right now? And then you also learn the right mindset to approach content today and in the future. Next, next slide. Yep. Okay, so before I drag you on for the rest of the slides talking about entities, I want to make sure that we are all on the same page. What is an entity? Basically, an entity is a thing or a concept that is singular, and the easiest way to think of it is a noun. So, for example, beauty is an entity, but beautiful is not. Book is an entity, books is not. And if you actually search for book and books on Google, you get a little bit different results because book is more of an entity, but books, you'll probably get lists and a list of like top books or stuff like that. And that's not only for this word. Anything, if you, most of the time, if you search for something in singular and in plural, you find them different. There's also a graph. I'm not sure if you can see it well. So we're not only concerned with objects and things, we're also interested in how these things connect or relate to each other. And this is a simple example of a knowledge graph, which we are going to talk about in the next slides. And it's basically made up of entities and how they relate to each other. Yep. Yep. So, okay, why do we need to think of entities? What happened? What changed that we need now more than ever to think of entities? And just a thought, a note: entities or that concept is not new. It's actually one of the things I started or learned about when I started SEO back in 2014. It was just not very widespread. It was more complex to explain, and no one talked about it, right? So what happened? Why do we need to talk about it? Next slide. Yep. So 10 years ago or more, the SERPs was filled with a lot of low quality results, like content farms, thin content, keyword stuffing, all sorts of like the entire spam SEO handbook was actually that was what SEO was, right? And obviously the results were not good, and Google didn't like that, and they wanted to change that. So this is how, or that's what this was the starting point. So what happened? I don't want to give you a lot of theory, but I'll walk you through it quickly. In 2011, Google released Panda. Panda was targeting low quality sites. A lot of businesses actually, with the Panda, when the Panda algorithm was first launched, a lot of websites or businesses went out of business literally. The next one was Penguin in 2012. Again, in an attempt to improve the quality of results. Panda was about black hat techniques, uh, black black hat link building techniques, which some of them still work today, but the most obvious ones, or the ones that were easy to detect, obviously were killed at that point. And then, okay, so low quality content and low quality backlinks were addressed a bit to a great extent. But then Google wanted to move away from techniques that could be easily manipulated into techniques that are that would definitely provide value to the user. So keyword stuffing is obviously something that can be very much or very easily manipulated. So that's why Google started moving away from measuring how relevant a content is based on keyword density and how many times a keyword is mentioned in the content, and move towards entities and creating the knowledge graph. And that's when the announcement was things, not strings. So no more focusing on repeating the exact same keyword in the content. It's more about things and entities. And then later on, a lot of other, obviously, algorithm updates were launched ever since. One of them, for example, is Hummingbird. It improved Google's understanding of sophisticated search intent and entities and the meaning of things and how they are related. And yep, this is where obviously there are tons of other algorithms, but this is like the where everything started. Next slide. Yeah, so with the launch of the knowledge graph, Google had more capabilities. If you write, for example, when was Diana born, Google is able to know that you're talking about Princess of Wales, and obviously get the right date of birth, and then also return related entities. And in that situation, the related entities are people. Google was able to understand the context, right? And understand the context of the query and what you really mean, and who Diana is, and collect all the information and give you the answer that you want, right? Next slide. So as I said, Google moved from strings to things. No more thinking about if you take that exact keyword and write it 10 times in the body of the content, then this is going to be this is more relevant than other content that doesn't have the same number of keyword repeated. And one of the real examples we see, if you type for anything in search results, in image results, right, you get a list of search terms and entities. It's a mix, and that shows you that Google understands the relationship between those. For again, the graph we talked about was entities and the relationship between them. So for example, Robert Downey Jr., he's an actor. He played Iron Man. He Iron Man is part of Avengers. So it also returned, for example, Mark Ruffalo, because Mark Ruffalo is also part of Avengers. So Google is now able to understand more and more the relations between things and return and answer you based off on that. But then it also means that this is what Google expects to be or look in or find in your content, right? Next slide. So basically, when Google reads your content, like a piece of text, it converts it to a graph, right? And right now it does have the graph. So it's able to actually find if your content matches consensus. For example, if there's a specific piece of information that all resources agree on, all reliable sources agree on, and you also agree on with, or are you contradicting it? It's able to understand a lot of things based on the knowledge graph they built, and also add new information. So for example, if you're a new entity, like when for example, when I started building my knowledge graph or focusing on building my own knowledge panel on Google, I am a new entity. Sara Taher for Google is a new entity. So you start showing that you're a new entity and what are the other entities that are related to you, like SEO, Assembly, for example, which is my company, LinkedIn, because I'm active on LinkedIn, and so on. So in Google now, when it looks at text, it looks for entities. So there was time, I'm not sure, like 2 years or 3 years ago, I'm not sure. If you click on about this result, this result still exists, but in the past it used to show related terms. So when you say, okay, how to cook fish in the oven, and you click on about this result, it did tell you that some of the reason, it shows you why are you seeing this result, right? And one of the reasons why that this result has related terms. It has ingredients, it has recipe, it had is it breaded? So it had, like, there are related terms that Google looked for. So in other words, this result, or the answer to this question, needs to have specific entities or mention of specific things. You cannot talk about how to cook something without ingredients, without a recipe, right? So there are specific entities that need to be there when you talk about specific topics. So and that's why, again, why we're talking about entities today. So just to give you an idea the direction we're going towards, keyword research versus entities. In the past, if you're doing keyword research for a topic like road trip to Florida, you would have something like keywords would be like road trip to Florida, road trip, Florida road trip FL, which also stands for Florida. Now you need also to include entities, like what are entities that need to be on that page or on that content that are not part of the keywords, because but still are important for Google because they show that this content is relevant and it has covered all the topics or all the related entities. It's thorough enough, right? So for example, if you're talking about road trip to Florida, you need to talk about map, about travel, about itinerary, about planner. There's a lot of other entities as well, but just I listed some to summarize. Another, I'll discuss the other example as well, and hopefully that will make it clearer. If you're writing about 7-day Dubai itinerary blog, again, the usual keywords, but then Google expects to find specific mention of specific entities in that content because this signals to Google that this content is thorough enough. And this is what we, when we say thorough enough, this is what we mean by topical authority. You have covered and discussed all the related entities to the topic you're talking about, right? And this can be on the page level or on the content piece level, and then on the website level, right? And we're going to talk about that in the next slides. Yeah, and one more thing, entities, as I mentioned, I just want to like reiterate that entities don't have to have the same keyword words as in keywords. Like keywords, when you're doing keyword research, they turn up like very similar, but when you're like doing keyword research for a specific keyword, but entities are not like that. So what does using entities mean for us now? First of all, don't stress about a lot about color, like how spelling of things, unless you're like doing internationalization and trying to localize your content. Keyword matrix, like stuff like keyword density, are not important at all right now. It doesn't matter how much time you mention your keyword anymore, exact match keyword. What matters more is how thorough your content is and whether there are entities or not. um, and then things like keyword search volume. And then people may say why search volume is not important right now, because if you want to achieve topical authority in a specific, for a specific topic or an industry, you need to cover all the entities regardless of the search volume of them, right? Like if you're talking about trips to Florida, and then there is like one specific long tail keyword that is not um, doesn't have any search volume, it doesn't work like that anymore. You need to make sure that you're mentioning everything, right? Variations, third thing, variations. So Google understands clearly that Robert Downey Jr. is RDJ, uh, and Diana, just Diana, is Princess Diana. So if you have like, and then there's the, if you type the father of SEO, you get Bruce Clay. Google understands that these are the same thing, as well as simple things like dog is a puppy, for example. And then the last thing which we discussed is that you cannot achieve topical authority without doing entity SEO. Am I talking too fast?
No,
You see
no,
my,
you are fantastic. I mean,
okay.
this is my opinion. I think that you're making a complicated topics really explain it very simple. So,
Hopefully
but
I will not faint. Hopefully.
no, you will not faint. Don't worry. And you are. It's a complicated topic. You are making it very very clear. At least this is my point of view, but I guess that is the same for everybody. Plus, you have a plus because we know now that you love the Avengers.
Yes, big Avengers fan.
I understand that. I feel you. Okay, go.
Okay, so we talked about what is an entity, why we need an entity, but how do we find entities, right? So that's what we're going to talk about in the next slide. So there are many ways, and more tools are coming up. And like every day, literally every few days, there's someone sharing a new tool. But these are some. For example, image search. Search for your topic, the thing you're writing about in images, and start looking at what is Google suggesting below it. Some of these are entities and some are just search terms. If you find, you'll need to use your better judgment and understand, okay, this is relevant, this is not relevant. So some of them may be interesting for you. That you may come up with ideas you never thought of, right?
I'm analyzing if there is something that I was not expecting. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Sorry.
No worries. No, if you want to stop, you can take your
I
time.
mean, I love also Diana, so I was checking. Sorry.
So also things like Google Trends, related queries and related topics. Uh, if you, this, I think I was looking for Dubai itinerary. So, for example, one of the things related topics is tourist attraction, right? That's something Google expects you to talk about on that page. For some unknown reason, so there are others that are, I see, very relevant. Yes, Island, but for example, Airbnb, I would have not thought about it if I'm talking about an itinerary. But for like any city in general, if I would have not thought about Airbnb naturally. I mean, maybe some people would, but I would have not. So this is something you would, okay, maybe this is something you should mention. For example, average price of Airbnb or prices start from, or maybe recommend a few. Like this is something you may, or is it a good idea to rent an Airbnb in that area or not? So this would give you like an idea of, oh, I would have not mentioned this. Okay, so now I need to mention it. I will discuss that, Lydia, by the way, at the very end. Okay, so collect data from autocomplete, search suggestions. So as you can see, like so far, we've discussed 3 tools, and the 3 tools are Google tools. Always try to play around with Google tools. One tool I forgot to add to the slides is actually Keyword Planner. Sometimes they give you like on the side suggestions for like they automatically sort the keywords by category on the, you'll find it on the side. It's really useful. Again, let's stick to the slide so I don't cause a mix up. So collect data from autocomplete and search suggestions. For example, swimsuits. Now we know that it's okay to write swimsuits and bathing suits interchangeably. Like these are, Google understands these are the same things. um, if you're writing, for example, top swimsuits or whatever, one piece swimsuits, for example, or La Vie en Rose, right? Like you can get an idea of what Google thinks is relevant to that search query. One thing is also try to do that in incognito so you don't get personalized results. Wikipedia. Wikipedia is one of the most awesome places to get entities. If you're writing about a topic that or an entity that happens to have a Wikipedia page, definitely check that. For example, if I'm writing about Dubai, you can come here, okay, what are like the most important entities? And you can just get them from Wikipedia. Like it's very clear. Like if you're writing about Dubai, these are things you need to mention. Obviously, some things you may not find some of them relevant. For example, um, if you're talking about a trip, maybe you don't want to talk about religion, maybe, or a lot, or it wouldn't be your focus. So, or metro, what I don't see well, but like, I mean, you'll go through them and get an idea of what entities use. Again, you need to use your better judgment. Another place to look is Google Knowledge Graph. Once you search, for example, for the royal family, you'll get other suggestions, for example, for other entities that are Google sees as related. So in this case, for example, other royal families, right? If you're writing about royal family, maybe you want to mention how they relate to other royal families in Europe, for example, or and again, it depends if you're using your better judgment. It depends on the angle you're addressing the topic, and you're using different tools to make sure that you're mentioning related entities. If you feel that this is not related to what you're writing about, then you can definitely skip it. Yeah, Google Knowledge Graph Search API. So you all you need is to just use the demo. You can copy and paste like competitor analysis. You can search for something on Google, go to the first result, copy some of the text, paste it here, and then Google will show you what are the entities that are on that page. And then there's Salis, which is basically how important or how relevant an entity is to the topic, right? I really encourage you to play around with this. Yeah, last but not least, I don't think this is last. Let's see. But this one, it's very underestimated. We are very addicted to using tools in SEO. Use non-web resources. You just brainstorm them. You meet with your team, talk about, okay, what else should we cover? What else? Like if I'm writing a topic about SEO nerd Switzerland, let's say I'm writing a blog about it, right? I would sit down with Sarah and what are the things I cannot forget to talk about when I talk about that topic, like what for example, how they started, who are the founders, what like how often they do their events, is it only online, like there's a lot of things online or in person, sponsors and so on. There's things you cannot say, okay, I covered this topic thoroughly enough without talking about, right? Find them. That's the whole purpose of this. Okay, so um, you know how to find entities, how to make them part of your workflow. Okay, so this is a really good example, and you can do it in different ways. You can do it for site-wide. If you're talking about, if you're doing for a small website, you can create a topical map. For example, you're launching a website about road trips, or you're doing SEO for a website about road trips. You can just start, okay, road trips, then we're going to talk about places, and then list the different places, and just, as we said, you'll do your research, and you'll do your research, and you'll find all the entities you should be covering, right? And think about them as topics, but again, you need to make sure that you cover all the entities. One way to do this, sometimes if it's a small website, I crawl one of the competitors' websites, for example, and then check for on Screaming Frog and look at the graph, understand how their website is structured. If they're like optimized and well structured, you will usually find that they have, for example, you can understand how the content is structured from the graph, if it's a clean structure, right? And then you can come up with your own topical map from there. You can get inspiration and fill the gaps, right? And that's okay for like a small website, but if it's a big website, like yesterday I had to do it for a gigantic website, you can it's going to be so time consuming, and it's going to be very hard to do. So what you can do is focus on, like, find the most profitable existing page on the website, for example, and start doing a topical map around it. So for example, if the most profitable page, at least this is how one way you can approach it, like let's say the most profitable page on the website is about it's a product page about email marketing software, then this will be like, okay, I'll start with this section or this topic and make sure I covered it thoroughly. So this will be like the top of uh, your topical map, and then from there, okay, what are the things that I need to cover and topics I need to write about to make sure I covered that. Next slide. Yeah. Okay, so if we take the road trip example, we said places, and then we have national parks, and then we have Zion National Park. So let's say, okay, I'll start with Zion National Park. That's a topic I want to write about. You'll do your usual keyword research, but you also do your entity SEO research. For example, in our situation, you'll find, okay, Cable Mountain. That's something I need to talk about if I'm going to talk about Zion National Park, because Cable Mountain is in Zion National Park. Hiking, because that's an activity people do in Zion National Park. Weather, hotels, and so on. These are obviously things you need to talk about. So yeah, you'll do your research, find the entities, right? So basically, you'll end up for Zion National Park, you'll end up with recommendations at a high level looking like this, right? Like keywords, and then long tail keywords, and then entities, right? And if you notice, bottom of funnel pages, or pages that are money pages, or where the user is ready to buy, are usually related, sometimes, a lot of times, are related to one main entity. But that does not mean that every single page would have one main entity. Some pages would have two main entities. Uh, in our case, it's Zion National Park. It's one entity, and that made it easy. But for example, if we go back to, if we think about our one of the examples we talked about, how to cook, how to bake fish in the oven. This is not one entity. This is fish, oven, cooking. So it's a lot of entities there, right? Okay, you have your keywords, you have your entities. Now you need to add your schema. If you have a one main entity on the page, and you do your best to find one, but for in our case, for example, the main entity is Zion National Park. Um, it's a park, right? So I went to schema.org, looked if there's a park schema. Yes, there is. So I created and so I flagged this. You flag this, you add the schema, and you say, okay, the type is park, the name is Zion National Park, and then you add like all the other attributes. And one good thing you can do is add same as, and then link to the Wikipedia page of Zion National Park, right? So you're telling Google this is the main entity of this topic is the same as that one on Wikipedia. Because Google uses Wikipedia to build its knowledge graph, right? Yeah, can we still
We go to
yeah.
the next one? Yeah, okay.
No, can we still hear? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
We're still on the schema. Yeah, and but then sometimes you have many times you have a lot of other entities, or most of the time you have other entities on the page. You can also add a schema highlighting other entities on the page. So for example, type schema name tour. There's a tour entity on the page, and then same as, and then you link to the Wikipedia page as well, right? Yep. And again, internal linking, there's nothing new. This is, again, if you talk about entity in a place, you need to, if there's a page about an entity and then you mention that in other pages, you'll need to link to it. Nothing new here. It's just we need to highlight it. It's more important than ever because um, it helps in building our topical authority and the clusters, and uh, organizing our website, and that all adds to having a clean information architecture. This is my bestest part. um, so, okay, how does that look like in practice, in real life, right? Okay, so some background, a small business wanted to do SEO. The SEO, what the SEO did is basically, okay, it's a small local business. They went to Google Maps and took note of all local entities around them. For example, the business is located at X street, then what other famous or um, established entities are available near it, and then they went back to the website and updated the content on the website and referenced and mentioned those entities, right? For example, and you can be as creative as you want. There's no one way to do it. In that situation, they added driving directions, for example, from those other locations, right? Like if there's a university nearby, you mentioned the university, and then you mentioned like how to find your way to the business from that place, right? Once that was implemented, the website received 32% increase in visibility simply by adding those geographically relevant terms, right? Like finding the local entities and optimizing your website with them. It signaled to Google that you are more relevant and have a better topical authority on that on in your industry or in your target keywords. Yeah. This was what Lydia was talking about. So ranking entities in search. So if you're a new entity, right, or and sometimes it's not a person. What if it's a brand name, like a new business, right? Anything, right? There is, how does Google decide um, which entity to show, right? And if the query should return an entity, how does Google decide on that? So, and why with Lydia, and even in my if you search for my name, there are others people that pop up in the images, and why is that happening? So first of all, as I mentioned, if you search for father of SEO, you get Bruce Clay, right? So Google understand how, how related an entity is to your search query, right? So if you're mentioned on many websites, let's say every time someone talks about Bruce Clay, they mention that he's the father of SEO, or he has backlinks with anchor text, so father of SEO, or that sort of thing. Okay, so Google measures the relatedness between the entity, which is Bruce Clay, and the keyword you're searching for. The second thing is notability. So if you search for Apple, and I encourage you to do so now, what do you think you'll get? Would you get the Apple fruit or the Apple the company?
Company.
Right? Why is that? Why do you think we are getting Apple the company and not Apple the fruit? Even though I think everyone knows Apple. Like obviously everyone knows Apple, but if we're talking about like, I mean, the fruit should be more famous in theory. I don't know. Apparently not online. Notability is Google is able to compare two entities in two totally different industries, right? Like fruits and Apple, the company, two different, totally different things, and even if they are in low competition categories, right, with low search volume, and Google is able to compare between them and decide, okay, which is more relevant to what you're searching for. And what Google sees is that when people search for Apple, they're looking for the company and not looking for the fruit. So that's one way. Apples, no, apples is plural, right? But what about apple single? Try the single one, right? So yes, yes. So Google is able to compare and understand which entity is related to what's been searched for. Where we are, I'm sorry, I got distracted.
Notably, and now we start contribution. And by
Oh
the
yeah.
way, if you want, I can try Apple Live, but I know that it's the company.
Yep. And then contribution. Okay, what if we had to Elida Solis in SEO? What if like which one Google's gonna show, right? So again, we talked about how Google was able to decide which entity to show when they are two different industries, but what about when they are in the same industry? This goes down to contribution. Who of the two entities are contributing the most, getting linked to the most, getting coded the most, and so on. So and based off that, Google would uh, make that decision, right? Like this is the person that is much likely related to the query that you're searching for. One last thing, it's prizes, and I think this is something that been recommended like years ago. Generally speaking, if your business or your personal brand, or you have been awarded any type of awards or certificates, right, always link to them, always talk about these things on your website. Or if your business, for example, has the ISO whatever or that sort of thing, always add them that on your website. And maybe you want to add like a one line or one sentence description of what that is, um, because these things also help rank the entities. So when we have an entity that's mixed up, like when you search for something and you, like if you search for Sara Taher, right? You'll still see some other Sara Tahers there. Like I'm not the only one. Like I started to have a knowledge graph, but there are other people, and that means while I may be more more notable than the others, may potentially, I'm not strong enough yet. Right, my entity is not strong enough yet to be definitely sure that most likely in a very to be the apple versus apple. I'm not there yet, right? So that what that means.
So there is a small story then I discussed it with Jason Bernard once about that, and it's like the first year is the most difficult, but after the first year, it's set on stone almost. Yeah.
Yeah, one more tool. This text tracer, again, you can copy and paste content, and then it will show you what are the entities are. And again, it's a tool I find useful if you're like lost and not sure what like you did all the research and still not, or where did miss out on something. Maybe you can take your competitors' content and paste it here.
Ah, do you want to speak about the resources or just a thank you?
I love tons of resources there. Tons. I wanted to make sure that if you like wanted to learn more, anything, you find all the resources. So yeah, I added those. I think we're done, right? I think.
Yes, and then there is your thank you.
Yeah, this was the least stressful webinar for me. Like I'm usually like about to faint, so I didn't faint. So I'm really happy. Yes.
Sorry about my notification because I reset the computer before, and when I reset it, I forgot to switch off the notification. Sorry about
No, for a
sorry
second
to Sarah about that.
I was like, is this coming from here or is it my cat or my
No, that it
husband?
was me, my notification tick tick, and I was like, woo!
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone. Remember just before the webinar, I was talking to Sarah if I should lock my husband somewhere. So we had
And then it is me that should have locked my
no,
kids
no.
entering. Did you finish it? I was like, okay, but you were
Yes,
fantastic,
Lydia,
Sarah.
thank you.
You were. I'm so curious. But Sarah, you were fantastic. I think seriously, it's a very it's a topic that can easily become complicated, and you really make it like super easy, and I'm sure that everybody could easily understand. Oh, Isaline, as she's here, she wrote some key points.
So
Then you said
the one
so.
advice, because there's a lot of like patents, a lot of stuff going on in SEO, and it's really easy to get overwhelmed. But what it what's important at the end of the day is not like all the jargon, because I see a lot of people, okay, these two keywords are, if you add two keywords together, this is called I don't know what, and then here and there, and there's a lot of like jargon and technical keyword words that people were using, but neural matching and stuff like, and okay, how does this impact my work at the end of the day? And that's how I highly recommend we approach every single topic, because you don't need to like have the whole technical playbook to understand how to optimize, right? You don't need that. What you need is understanding those basics, and just you're ready to execute.
Sarah, there is Idris, then I have a question. And so we go with this question. So now there is just 10 minutes left to grab all our knowledge. And so if you have a question, go, 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 go now. But we start with him. So for a new blog, how do I incorporate entity into our process? Decent discussion just will last for 1 hour, but okay.
No,
I
no, no
don't
worries.
know if this makes sense. Or we shouldn't bother. Ah, okay, no, that it's a quick one.
Okay,
Okay.
you do your usual keyword research and everything, and your outlines and everything, and then do entity research. Look, use the tools we have shared and try to pull other entities, and maybe even brainstorm. Some people are actually using chat gpt, like what are the related entities to that topic, for example, right? Have all of these and make sure you're mentioning them in your content, right? There are actually some tools that would help you also, like for example, one of the tools that I affiliated with is InLink, said it helps you point what entities are missing. There's also on-page.ai. I haven't used it yet, but I've heard positive feedback. So you can either do that manually, and it's not that time consuming really. You can just say, okay, I'm going to go for the top 10 entities related to that topic and just search for them, or you can just use a tool.
Yeah, you can also check the competitor, as you said
Yes.
before, and see in Google API what is the entity that they use. So let's start with Lydia. Okay. What do you think about incorporating entity into your strategy with mentions schema markup?
I think that works as well. I think, yeah, that would work as well.
Perfect.
I would do it.
That
I wouldn't do it for every entity though. I would do it for like entities that are important, right? But yeah, sure.
Okay, so she gave an example. So, for example, if I'm writing about headless CMSs, should I add in a JSON script explaining the entity I'm mentioning? There is a part two to the question. Ah, okay.
Oh, I
We
think that
already
was part.
answered that.
I think that was part two.
Okay. So, okay. So we go to the next question. What was the
Also, there are tools to help with those with the schema for entities. Again, InLinks does that. I'm not sure what other tools does the schema for entities, but worth looking for. Like this is something we can definitely research.
Yes, there is a, what's the name? WordLift. No, WordLift, I think. Then also do it. So, yeah, there are quite a bit of tools that do that. You're right. So, Nina, what was the name of the tool again? Ah, but we will share, will you share the presentation? Is that okay?
Yep, sure.
Yeah, so you will share it on LinkedIn or
Yes,
Twitter,
yes.
no?
It's actually on SlideShare right now.
So maybe we take directly. Do you have the link so we can share it
Uh,
directly? So you can see, we
yep,
can see
I think I
directly.
do. Yeah, 1 second. I think I do.
So yes, WordLift. Voila, WordLift does that too. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
and you have the directly the presentation here of Sara, so you can directly see all the tools that she used and have an overview. Now, coming back to Lydia. So yeah, my question is in link inspired. Ah, okay, yeah, obviously it was in link inspired. Okay, so apparently everybody's using in links. Okay. Do you have other questions coming up? Yes, no, yes, no. Okay, so that it looks then at the moment there are not other questions coming up.
How did I do,
Next.
guys? Are you sure I did well? Because I keep.
Sara,
I was
Sara,
too
you,
fast.
cioè, I need to tell you that you are a bit paranoid because you were great. Cioè, on the list of the speakers that we had, I think that you are on the upper level because it was interesting, really interesting, and it was, and you simplify again, simplifying a concept is not always easy. So you were fantastic. I guarantee you, everybody's saying that. Nobody in this
Thanks,
planet
guys.
could
You're
say
you're.
differently.
This was like a really nice crowd.
No, but it was deserved. It was nice because it was deserved. So no, you were seriously. I think then you were fantastic. Everybody clap!
Oh my
I
god.
can do like direct a shout out on Twitter saying thank you, Sarah, because you are fantastic. Seriously, you did an awesome job, an awesome presentation. It's always very difficult and it asks a lot of
Thank you so much,
energy
guys.
to speak
I'm
publicly. So you did it, Sarah. Do you see how many hands are clapping? I mean.
Thank you, guys. Thank you,
How
everyone.
much is deserved that? Seriously. So, so I don't think then we have more questions coming, but I would say we really have some few minutes. But I let people clap their hands because I like that.
Thanks, everyone. Really, you've been a really nice crowd. It's really a great opportunity to talk to you and discuss this topic with you guys.
So I really think that everybody was really happy of your presentation. This is clearly the demonstration. You did an excellent job. I think that is really nice and probably go and present it all over because sometimes I have still the feelings then SEO, especially maybe the whole generational SEO, it's not englobing the entity yet. I mean, it's
Yes.
weird, but they're not englobing it. So it's important. It's really important. So thank you so much, Sara. Do you want to say a last word before we say goodbye to everybody?
If you have any questions, guys, send me a message on LinkedIn. If you'd like, I highly encourage you to check out my newsletter and sign up for it. Yep, if you liked it, thank you so much for listening and taking the time to be here today.
So I have two more things to share again. So I will share Sarah website if you want to. Again, it's not my website. There is written Sarah, but it's the other Sarah.
It's our
So
website, like
it's
both Sarah.
it
Yeah.
becomes our. So it's our website where you can sign up for the newsletter. And then I will share also the Global SEO Club. So for the international SEO events that we are organizing with Ulrika, you can subscribe there. And so we will start promoting it in those days. So this will be the first event, everything new, blah, 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 you know. But first of all, first and last thing, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're fantastic. Thank you, Sarah. It's a lot of fun.
You too.
Okay. So now I will let everybody go back to work, back to the families, back to cooking, because I have to cook, so I will say that, and all the rest. Ciao. Ciao, ciao to
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Ciao.
Thank you, everyone.